Welcome to the Early Stage Investor, where life-changing returns are the only priority. Make sure to visit silverchartistnation.com for a free weekly chart pack covering early stage assets ready to lift off. Now, here's your host.
I want to welcome Christian Elferink. He goes by the handle @MiningCatalyst on Twitter and operates miningcatalyst.com. He really studies the precious metals industry in depth, so I'm excited to have him on to share his knowledge with us so that we can hopefully find the next long-term multi-bagger gains that early-stage investors and great companies, in this case, mining companies, deserve. He also has some top stock picks for 2021, so welcome, Christian.
Thank you, Elliot, for inviting me and having me. I'm looking forward to our talk the next half hour. I don't know how long it goes.
Right, me too. So can you start with telling us a little about how you got into the space and started Mining Catalyst?
I started investing at the age of 16, thanks to my grandfather, actually. He's always been invested in the market and he made a lot of money before the dot-com bubble and also lost it all after the dot-com bubble. I think he was looking to share his passion with someone, and I guess I was his first victim that he could find. So I learned the basic tips and tricks I learned from him. He took me to annual meetings of mostly Dutch companies and to some investing seminars. And I kind of rolled into the precious metals mining company sector when I was 24, I guess, 25. By reading an article about I Am Gold on Seeking Alpha. That was the first thing I read about precious metals and mining companies. And then I started following a newsletter writer on Seeking Alpha and started to follow some picks of his. Actually, my first investment based off his recommendation, not recommendation per se, was Midway Gold. So, it went horribly wrong.
Right.
So that was actually my first investment in the precious metals / mining game. And I immediately lost a lot of money. I was fortunate enough to sell at, I think it was 40 cents before they eventually went to zero. So I was fortunate enough to have some of my money left, but I did lose a lot of money. Same goes for Red Eagle Mining. They also went bankrupt. And that's when I started to feel the need to not follow newsletter writers per se, but also make my own decision and hold myself accountable for my own actions, and not say when a stock goes bad that you say, oh, it's his fault. No, you have to say it's your fault, and you have to look to yourself into the mirror and say, it's my fault. You had a bet going, but it didn't end up very well. So one thing I noticed was there are certain catalysts that can trigger a company to go, sky high, but also go basically to zero. Like we saw yesterday with Pucara Gold, they released some pretty disappointing drill results and the stock went down 50%. And today we have Firefox Gold, which actually personally, I didn't think they were that disappointing, but the market seemed to think so. And the stock is down 25% at the moment. So catalysts can go both ways, but they can earn you a lot of money. So I was looking for an overview of all the certain catalysts of all different kinds of companies to look for new investment opportunities. But there simply wasn't one place where you could see where different kind of catalysts of different kind of companies would happen in the future. So I guess it was 2017 I started the Mining Catalyst Drill Play newsletter, where I would gather information of all the companies that are currently drilling, where they were drilling, how much they were drilling, and when they started drilling, and when they released results. Just mainly to see how long will it take for a company to drill, how long will it take for them to release results, and how long will it take for the lab to come back with results. So that was a good starting point for me, for myself also, to learn something about the sector. And then again, share some of this information with other investors in a newsletter. So other investors could see which companies are drilling and do their own research based on my list. But it took me way too much effort and time to keep the newsletter up. I think it was online for a month or two, but it took me 4 to 5 hours to analyze all the data, put it in an Excel list and send it in a newsletter. So unfortunately, I had to stop with that. But then I started to get really active on Twitter and just started to cover the catalyst on Twitter. So when a company had good results, I would just cover them on Twitter. Or the results were bad, I would also cover them on Twitter, just to give my followers and for myself some bit more of an understanding from what is happening, what do these results mean, Are they good? Are they bad? And should you act on it or not? All my Twitter posts are non-sponsored, by the way. I get this asked a lot. So to clear the air, all my posts are non-sponsored. The mining sector is a very niche and opaque sector with a lot of difficult technical words that are hard for newcomers to understand. And also the analyzing of drill results at first sight can be quite difficult for non-technical. And even for me, sometimes it's hard to analyze. So I started the our equivalent calculator, where you can put in a drill of a company with certain metals, even with commodity prices factored in, and even possible recoveries of the drill, to analyze what the gram meters are, the in situ value of the rock, and the total in situ value. And then you can compare drills with other companies, and you can have a quick oversight of if a drill is good or not.
That all sounds good. And it sounds like you have a lot of experience and you've studied this for a while. So that's why I'm glad to get you on to share kind of some of your knowledge on how you look at these stocks and even some of your favorite ones. So first, what are some things that you do specifically when analyzing mining companies, and what should investors look out for?
I just start my day. I'm currently based in Amsterdam. So I start my day with going through the ASX news releases. So just start my day, go to Hot Copper and try to go through all the most interesting price sensitive news releases, see if I can find any new opportunities or something interesting that's worth further investigation. Like I said to you in the beginning of our conversation, I'm not a macro expert, so I will leave it up to other people. And I won't base my investment decisions on a macro perspective per se. I will keep it into account, but I mainly just pick stocks with a short-term or longer-term goal. This is more or less my strategy. Not to say that it's the best strategy or a strategy that your listeners should follow, but it's a strategy that works for me and I tend to stick to. So I have 60 to 75% of my portfolio are 4 to 5 core holdings, which I follow intensely on a day-to-day basis and discuss with management also on a regular basis. And with that in mind, the goal for those 60 to 75% of my portfolio comes with a clear goal or a takeover or bringing the asset into production. And the other 25 to 40% is just more or less a little bit of play money with interesting stories I follow with some near-term catalysts that could earn me some money. The most important thing I've learned in the beginning of my investing career is that you don't need to fall in love with a stock. My first stock I fell in love with was Independence Gold Corp. And by falling in love with, I mean a holding of too long and seeing all your profits go to waste. My first stock that I fell in love with and last, luckily, was Independence Gold Corp. They had the Boulevard project next to now Gold Corp's coffee project is, which was a huge project with some good drilling results. And Gold Corp Boulevard project was just on the other side of the coffee project. And I entered at 7 cents, I believe, before they even started drilling. And when they started drilling, the stock went up to 45 cents. And then we had to wait on drill results for 2, 3, I guess it was even 4 months, and the stock was back to 40 cents before even releasing horrible drilling results. So that was my major learning point in the beginning of my career. So don't fall in love with stocks and try to avoid confirmation bias when you actually own a stock. I always tend to look for red flags and things that might possibly go wrong in the near future. So always try to stay critical and keep looking for possible flaws that can happen in the future of the company. And I think the time of the easy money in juniors is past. That was the beginning of 2020, and maybe even the end of 2015, 2016. There was some juniors trading at cash value and enterprise value of 0. And those were the times where the most of the easy money was made. And for me, it's getting harder right now to pick good and interesting stories that haven't gained 100% already today. So you need to put in a lot more work to actually find the good stories that can run to 300% in the near future. So I think it's important, if you want to invest now in the precious metal or even in junior mining, is to basically start your due diligence online, look up some videos, watch a presentation, and maybe even try to build your own network with people who like the same stocks and bounce ideas off each other and share information with each other. And if you like the story based on your first due diligence, I would recommend that you try to contact the management. Like I said, in 2015, 2016, for me, it was almost impossible to contact management. It's got a lot easier now, but I mean, some management teams won't even answer my emails or phone calls to this day. So basically, when management doesn't answer, I do not invest. I always try to build a relationship with management and get a better understanding of how they run the company and what their plan is for the future, which you not might pick up from online interviews or even a PowerPoint presentation. One example I can give you how I pick stocks, this has been quite the run for me. Roscan Gold. I believe they started drilling somewhere in 2019 and they were at 5 or 6 cents. Even after the first drill program, they released very good results. And I bought my first tranche of the company at, I believe it was 8 or 9 cents. Not even after I did my due diligence, but just based on the first drill they released to the market. And then I started looking at what land do they have, what's the history of the project, how does the geology work, and then trying to get in contact with management. And based on that due diligence, I got in the private placement of early 2020. From that point on, it's been my core position from the 60-75%. I mean, based on drill results that have been released and the news releases that have been released, I traded around my core position several times, but always kept my core position. The end game for Roscan, in my point of view, is a takeover within the next 2 years by a major, because they have that exciting project in Mali. That's a good example of how one of my speculative positions can end up as one of my core positions, because they keep releasing good drill results and doing the right things.
It's valued at $88 million right now. What sort of outlook do you see for the future for them, aside from a takeover target? But what kind of continued growth do you see for the company?
They just acquired a land package west of their Curaçao project, where the mineralized trend is going through. So I was discussing it with some other guys that are interested in Roscan a few months ago, that they should acquire the land next to Curaçao, because I think there's a lot of potential there. And they also did an acquisition with a current resource on it.
You know, a lot of people, they look at the jurisdiction it's in, which is West Africa, and they say, oh, well, I don't know how stable that area is, right? Like, could these mines be nationalized? You know, it's not maybe as safe as a Canada or America or Australia. So are you comfortable with investing in West Africa regions, especially for this stock?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes. I mean, the coup happened, the Mali coup happened a couple of months ago, and that made me a bit uncomfortable. But Roscan is on the good side in the southern part of Mali, which was not too close to the main capital where all the political unrest was going on. I'm quite comfortable taking bigger risks with investing. I mean, I have 3 of my core holdings are in somewhat unstable, as others would say, or non-investable jurisdictions like Mali and Bosnia.
Wow.
So yeah, I like to take my political risk, but it's based off of good due diligence and with a certain extent too. Like I said in the beginning, when it goes wrong, I can look to myself in the mirror and say, this was a calculated guess I took and you have to take the loss now. So that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, they've been around since 2004. So you'd think that something bad would have happened in the meantime if it was going to happen. So it's good that you're finding value in areas that are overlooked by other people.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get an edge there as a retail investor to take that leap of faith and invest in a somewhat unstable jurisdiction that could deliver some outstanding returns over the longer period if everything plays out as it should. But yeah, it's a risk and you have to be willing to take it.
Okay, so a little bit more about this land acquisition. You seem to be pretty confident that it's a good purchase. What's the good news as far as what the resources are in the land they acquired?
So the land they just acquired has no resource estimate on it yet, but based on the IP survey, the mineralized trend seems to go right through the newly acquired land. And they also acquired Kabaya before that. That was, I believe, from Comet Gold, another Canadian listed company, which currently has a little over 100,000 ounces in the ground. So I'm hoping with the current drilling that they can set up a resource of, let's say, more than 500,000 ounces before the wet season starts. I believe they actually can drill through the wet season as one of the few African companies. So good for them. So yeah, for Roscan, I'm looking for a takeover within the next 2 years. So they're currently drilling Cookie South, I believe, Kabaya, and some other targets. And I think their main target at this point is Mankuka South, where they had the most drilling done without a current resource estimate. And then they acquired the Kabaya project, which has a resource estimate of 100,000 plus ounces. But yes, they're currently drilling with 6 rigs. There was quite a warrant overhang from the previous finances, which almost should be over, I guess. They have some 25 million warrants left, which should give them enough money to finish this drill program on several targets and come up with a decent resource estimate in the near future.
Yeah, and that's huge. And that's usually what I look for when I'm buying a company is just, do they have gold in the ground and do they have the money to get it out? And it's like, it seems like this is a great growth story. You know, they have, it seems like a really kind of robust mine with lots of gold in the ground and they're getting it out. So I can see why you would like it.
I would recommend your listeners to watch the latest video of the mining book guy. He's also on Twitter and he did a really good video on Roscan and all their targets that they're currently drilling.
Excellent. And when did you get into it, by the way? What price?
Roscan?
Yeah.
I believe it was 8 or 9 cents right after the first drill results.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for
you. And I think my average is a little above 13, 14 cents, I guess. Not sure.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, so any other companies that really excite you right now?
Like I said, Roscan, one of my core holdings, but I'm the most excited for 2021 for Alto Metals. It's ASX listed with the ticker code AME. They have a huge land package in Western Australia. It's 800 square kilometers on the Greenstone Belt with 1.3 million ounces historical production before the 1900s. And I mean, to most people that might sound boring. I mean, even for me, that sounds boring, but there actually is a lot of potential there to uncover more ounces. They currently have 331 ounces in the ground. And they are drilling 30,000 meters at their main target, Lord Nelson, which is a bit of a weird name, but I mean, I've seen weirder names for gold targets. So,
yeah,
with a current resource of 100,000 ounces at almost 2 grams. But the reason why I think this is an exciting story for 2021 is most of the drilling has only been done not any deeper than 100 meters. So the current resource is also just below the historical open pit of 90 meters and goes to 200 meters below surface. And they're currently drilling into the southwest, where they hope to extend the current resource of 100,000 ounces with a strike length of 1 kilometer. And they could potentially triple the strike length to 3 kilometers, even with the current drilling program of 30,000 meters. And I believe it's currently trading at a market cap of $40 million Aussie, but the company hasn't really participated in the first steep rise of the precious metals and junior minings in 2020 because there was a lot of corporate interest in the company and there were actually 3 takeover bids. The first one at 1 cent and I believe the last one was at 5 or 6 cents, which prevented the company to go to the market and get cash for drilling. So they finally did a private placement to get some funds and let the drill bit speak. So that's one of my most exciting targets for 2021.
It looks very exciting to me because you're right, it hasn't moved yet and they have gold in the ground.
They currently only have 300,000 ounces and that might seem a little bit expensive for a $40 million market cap. But they have 4 or 5 million in cash right now. And there's some money coming in from option exercises from the 7 cents options from the last race. So they have enough money to complete their 30,000 meter program. I'm not sure what they're planning after that.
Okay, that sounds really exciting then, for sure.
And my last pick for 2021 I wanted to share with you and your listeners is, I've been quite vocal about this one, is CHZ Resources. Also listed on the ASX with the ticker CHZ. I also got into this one quite early, also thanks to Mining Book Guy, that I believe was 7 cents. And they are currently drilling their project Diamba Sud with 2 exciting targets, Area A and Area D. They discovered a very high-grade oxide zone at Area D last year with some excellent drilling results. And they're now currently drilling, there are results pending for Area A. I'm not too excited about seeing those results because I think they could disappoint a bit, to be honest. And I wish they increased their drilling or just stay focused on Area D and drill out some ounces there, which seemed a more exciting target. But the company decided to drill some meters at Area A. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's also an exciting target. But I would love to see some more focus on Area D, which has higher grades and longer intervals of gold. So they currently have, I believe, 8 million in cash, drilling 20,000 meters. And I'm kind of hoping they will increase with their increased cash position. They will increase their current drilling program, especially for Area D, so that they can set up a good resource estimate even before or even during the rainy period when no drilling can be done, to keep the market excited for the story.
Gotcha. So you're saying they've started drilling in these pretty lucrative areas, and they haven't made a resource estimate yet?
No, not yet. I think they drilled almost 40,000 meters to date on several targets, of which Area A and Area D seem to have the best potential to delineate a resource estimate. And I think, I'm not sure on that, but that would be the focus of the company in the next 2-3 months before the rainy season starts, I believe, the end of June, to drill out some ounces there.
Okay, so the hope is that potentially they will find and be able to give a good resource estimate about what they have in the ground, and that'll make the stock price pop, right? If it's positive, right?
Yeah, so there are currently several holes pending from Area A, which is a bit lower grade and narrower intervals, which I'm personally not too excited about and could cause some downward pressure in the coming month. But they are currently drilling, they're back at drilling at Area D, where they can extend the high-grade oxide zone to the northwest and northeast. And I would like to see some good follow-up holes there at Area D to really grow some ounces there and justify the current market cap and even go higher for 2021.
Okay, so what makes you optimistic about Area D? What have you seen that proves that there could really be some value there?
So it's a shallow, high-grade oxidized zone with intervals from 48 meters at 6.7 grams per ton gold being the best interval from the top of my head. And there seems to be enough potential to extend that high-grade oxidized zone to the northwest and to the northeast based on the latest drilling results. So if they could extend the high-grade mineralization to the northeast and northwest, it could grow into a big resource. But there's also some potential at depth, but I would like to see them target the high-grade, shallow, oxidized zone first.
Okay, I can see what you're saying. So there's really good quality, high-grade soil. And, just the more and more they drill, the more they could find. And just this growth story could really start to take off if they start to find more and more gold in the ground, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, well, I can't wait to follow up on these companies, Roscan and CHZ and Alto. Definitely going to keep track of those over time, but they all sound really exciting. So thanks for finding those.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me, Elliot.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before you go, where can people go to find you to learn more?
I'm mostly active on Twitter at Mining Catalyst, and otherwise you can look me up on my website, which has the gold equivalent calculator on it. It's miningcatalyst.com. And my DMs are always open for everybody. And if you have a question or if you want to just have a conversation, my DMs are open.
This discussion is for informational purposes only. Nothing in this discussion should be taken as investment advice. Guests are not compensated for their appearance. Do not base any investment decisions on the information presented.